collection of Imam Bukhari, as we all know, إِنَّمَا الْأَعْمَالُ بِالنِّيَّاتِ. Indeed, deeds are dependent upon their intention. إِنَّمَا لِكُلِّ امْرِئٍ مَّا نَوَىٰ. And every individual will receive whatever they have intended. And then in another hadith, the Prophet ﷺ has said, النية المؤمن خير من عمله. That the intention of the believer is better than the deed itself. Giving us the ummah of the Prophet ﷺ a very clear understanding that whatever action we perform, salah, siyam, zakah, tilawatul Quran, any deed we perform, only the intention will be taken into account. Which is why it's extremely important to have the correct intention, especially when it comes towards the worship of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Ending this month with a clear intention that if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala keeps me and you alive, and we see the advent of the month of Ramadan al-Mubarak, then having a firm intention that we want to enter the month in a complete state of purity, be pure before we enter the month, be sincere that we want to fast for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we want to stand during the nights and worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we want to give charity according to our capability, khalis li wajhillahi al-kareem, purely for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And we don't want to enter this month in a state of impurity, meaning spiritual impurity. Which is why we must end the month of Sha'ban in a complete state of humbleness and brokenness before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The month of Rajab al-Murajjab, Ibn Ata'ullah al-Iskandari wa ghayraha and others have all said that if you want to make the most of Ramadan, start the month of Rajab with the worship of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And your seed for the month of Ramadan should be planted in Rajab. Rajab al-Murajjab. And then in Sha'ban, you will see that the seed has given a shoot, meaning the plant is visible. Then in the month of Ramadan, that plant will start to bear its fruit. Meaning the preparation for the month of Ramadan should start in Rajab, if not before. The intention should be that we want to go into the month of Ramadan imanan wa ihtisaban, with faith and hope in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "Man sama Ramadan imanan wa ihtisaban, ghufira lahu ma taqaddama min dhanbihi." وقال النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم: "من قام رمضان إيمانا واحتسابا غفر له ما تقدم من ذنبه." Whomsoever fasts in the month of Ramadan with faith and hoping in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, having hope in Allah azza wa jalla, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will forgive all of their past sins. Whomsoever stands in the month of Ramadan, meaning extra worship. Often the fuqaha have said this extra worship means the worship of the night. Salatul Tarawih, Qiyamul Layl, Tahajjud. All of this is wrong, all of this is standing. Whomsoever does this in the month of Ramadan, out of many of the rewards that Allah gives us, foremost having faith in Allah, then hoping in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah will forgive all of the past sins. Which is why your intention should be completely clean and clear. Why are you fasting in the month of Ramadan? For the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Why are you standing in the month of Ramadan? Khalis li wajhillahi al-kareem. How are you ending the month of Sha'ban? Are you in a state where where you want to seek forgiveness and pardoning from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and then enter the month of Ramadan. Often we find that as a community, as Muslims globally, whether you're from England, where we are from, or whether you're from Africa or India or Pakistan, or wherever you're from, we find as a community that when the month of Ramadan starts, we start fasting for the first day, and then the second day, Salatul Tarawih, fasting, Salatul Tarawih, fasting. But the third day, we're thinking less about the fast and we're thinking more about the iftar. And then we're thinking, is there any mas'ala in the deen where I can reduce Salatul Tarawih? This is where our concentration goes towards, is it not? One of the reasons for this is that we didn't prepare ourselves for Ramadan. We didn't prepare ourselves. And how do we prepare ourselves for the month of Ramadan? In the month of Rajab and in the month of Sha'ban? If you don't already have the habit of doing extra worship, start now. Start doing tahajjud from now. Start doing qiyamul layl from now. Do extra fasts. According to the Shafi'i fuqaha, it's disapproved of to fast in the second half of Sha'ban because you must start Ramadan suddenly. But if you do one fast, I'm sure the fuqaha won't put a fatwa on you that this is mafruh. It's to get your body used to the fasting. In the Ahnaf, according to the Hanafi fuqaha, it's actually considered a sunnah to fast as much as you can in the month of Sha'ban, but leave the last 3 days. As you approach Yawm Shak, the day of doubt, meaning is it the 29th or the 30th of Sha'ban, you're still looking for the moon, don't fast those days. So you enter the month of Ramadan, fasting suddenly. But get your body used to it from the month of Rajab. Get your body used to it from the month of Sha'ban. Ending Sha'ban with the intention that you want to go into Ramadan, that you've already prepared for it, you're ready for it. This is the sign of Iman and hope in Allah. Whereas if you have not prepared for the month of Ramadan, it will be burdensome. अक्सर हमारे यहाँ क्या होता है, पांची घंटा ग्रोथ है उठो कि रमज़ान की तैयारी ना करे हज़रत, रजब में समोसा ने स्प्रिंग रोल ने कबाब या खीमा ने हमारे तैयार करेंगे. This is often what happens in our communities, that for the preparation of Ramadan, we start preparing in our houses samosa, spring roll, kebab, all of these things, and then we speak to our friends that night we go for iftar to this restaurant, to that place, and we eat this and we eat that. This is our preparation. But in reality, the preparation of a believer is what? What's the true preparation of a believer? Number one, Hujjatul Islam, Imam al-Ghazali, rahimahullah ta'ala, he says that the preparation of a believer foremost is tawakkul. Reliance upon Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You're preparing yourself. You're relying upon Allah. And then he says that don't be just those people who abstain from food and drink and carnal desires during the daytime, having a bare minimum of an intention, minimum effort. Try to be those people that in the month of Ramadan you don't only abstain from food and drink, but you try to keep your thoughts clear as well. And then the third degree are those individuals who don't only abstain from food and drink and clear thoughts, they keep the limbs safe as well. Your tongue, your eye, your ear, physically your hands, your legs. You abstain from everything. Anything that will earn the displeasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. In Ramadan especially, you abstain from that. This is the fast of the elite. This is the fast of those individuals who have true tawakkul, reliance upon Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Iman is firm, faith is firm, or ihtisaban, and they have complete hope in Allah. Try to be those people in the month of Ramadan. Ramadan is not just about abstaining from food and drink, and then at night you do bare minimum worship and then you have maximum enjoyment. This is often what happens in our communities. is what often in our communities it happens. That as opposed to preparing extra circles of recitation of Quran, or Durus al-Hadith, or Durus al-Fiqh, what do our people do? This is a reality. This is heedlessness. This is not making the most of Ramadan. What do? They have circles of, will play some games. Carom board. Or ayadhu billah, cards. Or dominoes. Chess. Ayyuha al-Ikhwan al-Muslimun, respected brethren in Islam, Allah has given you this month about which the Prophet ﷺ has said, in every single hour, Allah Azza wa Jal forgives thousands of believers. Thousands of believers are forgiven. And if Allah gazes upon you on the first night of Ramadan, first night, لا يعذبه أبدا. Allah will never punish you. You will never get punished by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala if Allah gazes upon your heart on the first night of Ramadan. And in Ramadan, the first Ashra, the first 10 are the Ayyam al-Rahmah, the days of mercy. The second 10, Ayyam al-Maghfirah, the days of forgiveness from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The last 10, Itqin min al-Niran, expiation from hellfire, saving yourself from hellfire, having yourself forgiven by Allah. Allah will never punish you. In Ramadan, you earn these three. The companions of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam asked him, Ya Rasulullah, Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, how do we earn the mercy of Allah? He said, Tajdeedul Iman. Keep saying La ilaha illallah, ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, la ilaha illallah, ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. You will earn the mercy of Allah. Simple sentences, but look at the deep and profound effect from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Takhsisul rahmah, specific mercy from Allah. And then they asked the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam in Ramadan, how do we have ourselves forgiven by Allah? The Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, say astaghfirullah, astaghfirullah, astaghfirullah. And then the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, question Allah in the month of Ramadan for one entity and seek his refuge in the other entity. Allahumma inni as'aluka jannah wa na'udhu bika minan nar. Oh Allah, I question you for Jannah. I seek paradise and I seek your refuge in hellfire. Inni as'aluka Jannah wa na'udhu bika minan nar. Which is why the fuqaha, they put this litany together. And then you will find that in the month of Ramadan, as the time of iftar is approaching, there's a recitation that happens. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, nastaghfirullah, as'aluka al-jannata wa na'udhu bika minan nar. What is this? This is that which was stated by the Prophet in the hadith, that you are seeking mercy, you are seeking forgiveness, you are asking for Jannah, you are seeking refuge from hellfire. This litany put together, the fuqaha, they said, recite this especially at the time of iftar, and you will find that this is the time for the acceptance of dua. This is the reason it is recited. For those individuals who may be in a state of confusion, that where has this innovation come from? This is a bid'ah. That this is a bid'ah. Why do you recite this in the month of Ramadan? The question will come about, do you understand the usul of hadith? Before you say it's an innovation, do you understand the principles of hadith? You will find that this supplication is from the usul of hadith, which is why we recite it. It's not bid'ah, if anything, it's ibadah. هذا ليس بدعة، هذا عبادة، هذا دعاء. وقال النبي صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم الدعاء مخ العبادة. وقال النبي صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم الدعاء هو العبادة. This is worship of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is making the most of Ramadan. This is what it means to have imanan wa ihtisaban. Having faith and hope in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Ask yourself as a believer, that as a Muslim, as a believer, if you have mercy from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, do you need anything else? If you have forgiveness from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, do you need anything else? If Jannah, paradise is guaranteed for you, Allahumma ja'alna minhum, Allah make us amongst those people, Ya Rab. In the month of Ramadan, is paradise guaranteed for you? Do you need anything else? If Allah has expiated you from hellfire, do you need anything else? في الدنيا والبرزخ والآخرة كل شيء رحمة مغفرة جنة والإتقاء من النيران كل شيء موجودين. Everything you need for this world, for the barzakh and the hereafter, everything is within this. Rahmah, mercy from Allah, forgiveness from Allah, Jannah from Allah, saviors from hellfire from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. What else does a believer need? What else does a believer need? This dunya, what is this dunya? Often we chase this dunya. Zinatul hayati dunya. This dunya, remember, on the night of Isra wal Mi'raj, the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam was shown this dunya. The Prophet was shown this dunya in the form of a beautiful woman. And then he saw that the beauty of this woman starts to vanish. And then the flesh on her body starts to stick to the bones, and the hair starts to turn grey, and then those bones, they start to wither, and they turn into dust. خلاص. كل من عليها فان. كل من عليها فان. هذا الدنيا. This world is only beauty that enlightens the heart and the mind for a brief moment, and then it will get destroyed. And Hujjat al-Islam, Imam al-Ghazali rahimahullah ta'ala, he said, the more you chase this dunya, the more Allah will make you chase the dunya. Allah will put you in such a state, physically and mentally, that it will never be enough. You will sit there counting your money, getting purana thinda. Bathe rogo hisab enda batha. Allah hero limbo, ke anke pande ke tadu ko ke mote aige na. Ye mari thibakare aamute thunda. Now, hada dunya, this is the world. You'll have so many properties, so many houses, yet you will keep thinking, I don't have enough. Yes, Allah has put you into that state. Allah has made you majnoon. Allah has made you mad. Fi hubb dunya, in the love of the world. And the people of the Akhirah, the true believer, remember, this world has been made for you. You have been made for the Akhirah. Not you have been made for the world. La. The world has been made for you. You're made for the Akhirah. هذا علامة المؤمنين. This is the sign of the believers. And the people of Akhirah, what is their trait? They don't care much for the dunya. They care much for the hereafter. When the month of Ramadan comes, they exert themselves in Ramadan in such a manner that they plan their day according to your capability, whatever capability, physically, mentally, whatever you are capable of, but you plan your day and your nights in the month of Ramadan. Extra worship. The Salihin in this month, they don't sleep. We've seen with our own eyes that the Salihin in this month, in Ramadan, they don't sleep. Salatul Tarawih finished. قيام الليل وترية بعد الوترية قيام الليل بعد قيام الليل تهجد بعد التهجد ساعة الفجر بعد الفجر أذكار بالأوراد وبعدين صلاة الضحى بعدين صلاة الظهر بعدين أذكار بالأوراد بعدين صلاة العصر بعد صلاة العصر تفسير القرآن دروس القرآن إفطار زيادة بين المغربين راتبين راتب العطاس وراتب الإمام الحداد أوراد وظائف قرآن درس تدريس whole month of Ramadan. Eid is to those people. Eid belongs to those people who make the most of the month of Ramadan. They understand that this may be the last Ramadan of my life. Is it not? Al-Haqiqah. I don't know whether I'm going to live through Ramadan or not. You don't know. I don't know whether I'm going to stand up on this chair or not. I don't know. Allah knows. Which is why have a complete and firm intention that inshallah, by the will of Allah, I want to enter into the month of Ramadan where I want to worship Him sincerely. I want to increase in my worship. I want to increase in my tilawat al-Quran. I want to make the most of the month of Ramadan, and then this Ramadan could be the best Ramadan of your life. And in this Ramadan, you know, the state of the believers, it has an effect on the rest of the ummah. And we know this from the principle of the Quran al-Kareem. In a locality, if there is a lot of people who commit sins, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala destroys that community. And in a locality, if there is a lot of people who worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah has mercy on the whole community. And this community, we are not restricted to one country or one ethnicity. La, we are a global community. هذا أمة سيدنا محمد صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم. We are the ummah of Sayyidina Muhammad. Na'am. Regardless of what our ethnicity is, whether you're Asian or African or Arab or Chinese or Indonesian, whatever you are. Man qala la ilaha illallah fahuwa Muslim. خلاص. Man qala la ilaha illallah fahuwa mu'min. قال النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم لا يؤمن أحدكم حتى يحب لأخيه ما يحب لنفسه. You can't claim to have Iman unless you love for your Muslim brother what you love for yourself. Al-Mu'min mir'atul Mu'min. Al-Muslim mir'atul Muslim. What joins us together is Iman. And the relationship of Iman is thicker than blood. In reality, it is thicker than blood. Think about this principle. That on the day of judgment, we will all be brought to account if we done silul arham or not. If we upheld the relationship that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has put us in or not. Did we uphold those relations or not? But then if a Muslim is suffering somewhere and you don't do nothing about it, you will also be to account for that. Today we are witnessing with our own eyes that believers are suffering in Gaza or Palestine and Yemen and Kashmir and Iraq. في كل مكان حتى في أفريقيا even in Africa. Look at Sudan. Look at Somalia. Central Republic of Africa. Muslims, believers are suffering everywhere. The least we can do, if we can't aid them financially, make dua for them. Make dua for them. And this Ramadan, when you lift your hands and do dua, have a very firm intention that my duas are for fellow believers as well. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will question me, Allah will question you, that what was your state regarding other believers? A believer cannot stand before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to worship Allah if in their heart they have contention against fellow Muslims. If you have anything in your heart, ayyuhal khullan, respected brethren in Islam, ikhwatul muslimun, my brethren in the deen, qabla Ramadan, before Ramadan, tukhruj li qalbik. Exit your heart, meaning what? Remove everything from your heart that has any contention against any believer and any human being as well. Hatred, animosity, jealousy, bughd, adawat, hasad, fasad, jod. अगर दिल के अंदर कीना रखा हुआ है किसी मुसलमान के खिलाफ, रमजान शुरू होने से पहले अपने दिल को पाक करो, अपने दिल को पाक करो. Remember Sayyidina Ali ibn Abi Talib karramallahu wajhahu al-kareem said that a person who stands before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala lifting the hand, Allahu Akbar, and they want to worship Allah, yet in their heart they have an atom's worth of arrogance against another believer, hatred against another believer, that worship will be thrown on your face. Now, because you can't stand before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, who is the purest, with dirt in your heart. How do you exit your heart? How do you clean your heart? Dhikrullah. The dhikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Istighfar, constant, consistent istighfar. Constant, consistent salawat on the Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Take out sadaqah, give sadaqah. Salawat on the Prophet, istighfar, tajdeedul iman, la ilaha illallah, la ilaha illallah, la ilaha illallah, la ilaha illallah. And you will find that Allah is purifying your heart. This is the promise of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَتَطْمَئِنُّ قُلُوبُهُمْ بِذِكْرِ اللَّهِ. أَلَا الله تطمئن القلوب. أيها الخلان, before Ramadan starts, end this month, the month of Sha'ban, with a complete and firm intention that you want to purify your heart. You want to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sincerely. You want to enter into the month of Ramadan in a complete state of mutma'innah. Enter Ramadan with complete tranquility, turning towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sincerely, and keep at the forefront of your heart and mind, Muslims globally, they need us. They need us. They need our supplications. They need our du'as. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allow this community and every community of believers to enter into the month of Ramadan in the complete state of purity and iman, and hoping in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make me and you amongst the people of Ahlul Sa'imeen, wal Qa'imin, wa Tilawatul Quran al-Kareem. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make me and you amongst the Tawwabeen, wal Mutatahhirin, waj'alna min ibadik as-salihin. Allahumma tawaffana muslimin, walhiqna bis-salihin, ghayra khazaya wala maftunin. Allahumma barik lana fi Sha'ban, wa ballighna Ramadan, ma'al mutfatin wa khairin wa salam. Ya arhamar rahimin, tawakkaltu alayka ya Rabbi, wa fawwadtu ilayka amri, wa fawwadu umurana ila Allah. Inna Allah basirun bil ibad. والحمد لله رب العالمين ورحمة الله.